Because Damage Swap works with just about anything with high enough HP in base set, why not pair it with my favorite card in base set, Gyarados? I mean, it's got 100 HP, resists Hitmonchan, it's weak to a type that nobody uses, and I've always just loved Magikarp and Gyarados. As I mentioned in the last Damage Swap video, you can pair this Alakazam with just about anything. You can make a Damage Swap Arcanine, Damage Swap Zapdos, Damage Swap versions of Haymaker. Slap it next to a Venusaur, who cares? The reason I personally enjoy Gyarados so much is just the energy efficiency of Dragon Rage, dealing 50 damage for 3 energy, and that's it. You don't have to discard a card. Gyarados doesn't damage itself. It's an attack that you can start using on turn 3, and you can just use over and over and over again. And because you have the Damage Swap support, you can just do that a lot. Because Gyarados is already pretty bulky, you're going to be moving damage off of it onto Chansey, using Pokemon Center, and that's the deck. So, let's look at the guts. As with any of these evolution decks, of course, the biggest weakness is going to be your basic Pokemon. Abra and Magikarp are no exception, because they have 30 HP. But you need Abra to get up to Alakazam, you need Magikarp to get to Gyarados, so they're in the deck. Full play set of Abra in some minty new Dragon Shield sleeves. Ooh, look at that. And this build of Damage Swap is not going to use Pokemon Breeder. So, in addition to the 4 Abra, we're going to have 3 Kadabra and 3 Alakazam. Because in playtesting, I found that there was really no point for Breeder. The Abra or the Magikarp is going to get knocked out turn 1 or 2 regardless. Gyarados can't start attacking until turn 3 anyway, so the entire build might as well be focused as a turn 3 deck. Meaning there's really no reason to have Pokemon Breeder, a card that is focused on getting out Stage 2 evolutions as quickly as possible, usually on turn 2. So yeah, it is nice on turn 2 to evolve on up into a Kadabra, to evolve on up into a Gyarados. That's still what you're going to be doing. It's just that Gyarados isn't going to be attacking on turn 2. If you lay down a Magikarp and they get some damage counters on it, the priority is not going to be get the damage off of the Magikarp. The priority is just going to be evolve it into Gyarados and then remove the damage counters. There's really no point on saving a Magikarp, a card that only has 30 HP, when there's a high likelihood that next turn it's just going to get knocked out anyway. There's not a deck in this format that's not dealing 30 damage early game. So in addition to the Alakazam line, we've also got a full playset of Magikarp and 3 copies of Gyarados, which is going to be your primary attacker. Another weak point of this deck can be when Alakazam is gusted out into the active position, because its retreat cost is a little high and there's no psychic energy in this deck, so you're not going to be attacking at all with pretty much anything other than those 3 Gyarados. And we're going to be loading up on Chansey. Full play set of Chansey. You've probably already noticed, this is a little more Pokemon than any of the other base set only decks that I've posted. Over a third of this deck is Pokemon, which is unusual, but it's just kind of what was working best for me. The deck can run with only 2 Chansey, 3 maybe at the most, but for some reason, I just like having multiple Chansey down on the bench and distributing the damage across them until I can get a Pokemon Center. That way, not a single Chansey is really a threat of being knocked out, unless you're up against like Zapdos, but then that's its own thing. The draw and search support is going to be 3 copies of Oak, 3 copies of Computer Search, mainly to search out those very specific evolution cards as you need them. And then Pokemon Trader is going to be pretty important in this deck, because you do have 3 different kind of evolution lines going on here. You want to make sure you get the Pokemon you need when you need them. So you don't want to have 4 Chansey in your hand when you really just need a Gyarados. Pokemon Trader is going to help out there. A little extra draw support in maintenance, as a lot of times you do get stuck with, like an Alakazam in your hand or an extra Chansey. You don't want to discard it to use an Oak, and so maintenance is a great way to, get a little bit off the top of your deck without actually having to stick anything in your discard where it's a lot more difficult to get back. So 2 copies of maintenance and 2 copies of Pokemon Center. This may seem like a card that you want 4 of in a damage swap deck, but really when you're playing it out, especially with 4 Chansey and you are distributing your damage counters kind of equally across them, you find that you don't really need Pokemon Center all that much. When you have it in hand, you might as well move all the damage counters onto one Chansey, put 10 or 11 on there, and then use Pokemon Center and kind of start the process over and distribute it evenly amongst the Chanseys. But you've got Item Finder to reuse those Pokemon Centers as needed. Even though this is a turn 3 deck, it's still, base set era, so matches aren't actually being drawn out super long. Once you start dealing damage and getting knockouts, it's a pretty quick downhill roll for one side of the field or the other. 3 copies of Switch to kind of respond to Gust, as we were talking about earlier. 2 copies of Gust for us so that we can get those easy knockouts or perhaps pull out potential future threats like a Voltorb or a Growlithe. Also got a couple copies of Lass in here to try to counteract any energy removal or Gust of Wind that your opponent may have in their hand that they're holding on to. You can Lass it right out of there, get it back into their deck, and hopefully buy yourself some more time. 3 copies of Item Finder, again, is going to be your main way of recycling those Pokemon Centers as you need them, or a Gust, or a Lass, whatever it is. It's a great utility card. Full playset of Energy Retrieval. That actually allows us to go a little lighter on the water energy in this deck since it already is Pokemon heavy. Having a full playset of Energy Retrieval is going to be the response to getting hit with a lot of energy removals, because as you're constantly removing damage counters off of your active Gyarados, you're also going to be constantly reloading it with water energy, because it's going to be the primary target of your opponent's energy removals. And so you see the rest of the deck's filled out with 12 water energy, which isn't a lot for Gyarados, but yet again, that's what the energy retrieval's for. So how does it stack up? Well, it's simple and it's consistent, which isn't something you can really say about a lot of the other decks I've posted for base set only, especially Electrode builds. If you've been playing along, you've probably realized that, man, Electrode is an extremely powerful archetype when it works. When it does not work on turn 2 and you can't get the cards you need, it is kind of a struggle getting through turns 3 through the rest of the game. Even with something like Rain Dance, you still enter the match with this slight fear that what if 1 or 2 of the Blastoise are in my prizes, then what do I do with this deck? With this Gyarados build, you've got 21 Pokemon in it, so you don't really have to worry about the pressure of I have to get what I need as quickly as possible because this deck is speed. No, you start the match knowing this is a turn 3 deck and I will have everything I need in the deck. You just sit down and play the game. Your strategy's not going to change no matter what your matchup is. I would actually like to end this video with an enormous thank you to everybody that's watching. Typically when I upload a deck list video, it gets about 200 views, 200 to 300 views in the first 24 hours. But at the time of recording this video, the Rain Dance deck list has been up for 24 hours and already has over 1,700 views. So for a very small channel like mine, that is amazing to see. I don't know if it's the algorithm that just kicked in extra hard this time around, or if there's just some type of renewed interest, but a part of it is you guys tuning in to watch, sharing with other people that you think would enjoy this content, leaving likes, leaving comments, working the algorithm a little bit. I really do appreciate it. It's the type of thing that keeps me motivated to keep creating content for my own channel. This was going to be the last video in the playlist, but people have been requesting Venus Center, which I hadn't really originally planned on doing, but I'm going to do it now. So Venus Center after this. If there's any other decks you would like to see, chuck them down in the comments so I can get those done too. And I'll see you next video.